Hey, welcome in. A special Tuesday edition. Monday live. Sorry we couldn't make it last night due to some travel schedule. So we had to postpone Monday to Tuesday. Um, I'm sure all of you know, I'm Jason Priester, allclemsontigers.com, part of the Clemson Maven multimedia platform. Before we jump in tonight, I want to remind everybody, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Very much appreciate it. Um, don't forget our next big live show tomorrow night, live at Dockside, right out there by Yurpa, 7 p.m. Big fall camp preview. So come on out and join us, man. We'll have some free swag. We'll give away some stuff. Love to see all you guys out there. Again, appreciate everybody joining me on a Tuesday. Usually we get together on Mondays. Again, I was on the road all night last night. Most of you that know me, I'll say it in case you don't, but most of you that know me know that I don't live in Clemson. So, but when I have to travel up here, I'm about 3 hours away. So when we have media events and the like, those kind of things, it's not just a little hop, skip, and a jump. I have to make plans and all that. So I spent all night. I spent yesterday evening on the road, so no show last night. Do it tonight. Appreciate y'all tuning in. Big announcement coming up tomorrow. 5-star Mike Matthews. He's going to go live, I think, on On3's channel about the same time we go live doing our live show tomorrow night. So we'll touch on this as it happens. Not looking too good for the Tigers, though, man. Not looking too good for the Tigers with Mike Matthews. The longer this thing's played out, the less I've liked Clemson's chances. We're going on, about 7 weeks now since his official visit. He visited Clemson back that first weekend in June. It's been a little while, and his last visit was the last weekend of June. He went to Tennessee. In between that, he also went to Southern Cal. Who there's been some buzz with Southern Cal. I'm not buying all that. I think this has kind of been a Clemson-Tennessee battle. I'm not saying Southern Cal hadn't been in it at all, but maybe a 3-team battle. Let's put it that way. But for me, I've always kind of thought it came down to Clemson-Tennessee. And if he commits to Tennessee tomorrow, which I'm fully expecting, the first thing people are going to – first thing you're going to hear, NIL, he took the money. He took the money. Look, I've never thought Matthews' recruitment hinged on NIL. This is a guy that is going to get NIL no matter where he goes. Clemson, Tennessee, Southern Cal, he's going to have NIL opportunities. We're talking about one of the top players in the class. They are going to be out. To me, it kind of comes down to compare the two offenses. Tennessee's kind of been selling this guy on being the focal point of that offense that was so explosive last year. Look what Jalen Hyatt did in it. In-state kid that Clemson, North South Carolina, never even offered, never got in on. He goes and kills it at Tennessee as an upperclassman. It took him a while to get there, but he just killed it last year in Josh Heupel's offense. That offense has a proven track record. Clemson's offense has been not very good the past couple of years. It has very much lacked the explosiveness that we saw in the days of Deshaun Watson, Trevor Lawrence. Clemson has just had problems pushing the ball down the field. Poor quarterback play, stale offense, lackluster wide receiver play, you name it. um, not pass protection breaking down, all kind of factors leading into that. No matter the reason, it gets you at the same place. Lack of explosive plays, lack of a consistent offense. Tennessee's had that. Clemson's has not had it. Now they've done something to address it, but there's really nothing on film to show anybody unless you want to show people what Garrett Riley did at TCU, and that don't count. We all know what he did at TCU, but these guys want to see him come do it at Clemson. They want to see it on film with Cade Klubnik as a quarterback, with these receivers that are on this roster right now. All that to say, Tennessee has got a lot of momentum right now, as evidence. They are kind of whooping Clemson's butt on the recruiting trail. Outside of one battle, Tennessee's been winning these recruiting battles over Clemson. Add in the Orange Bowl win, and it's kind of been one-sided of lately. You can even throw in them coming here and winning the baseball regional. It's Clemson fans are probably a little sick of Tennessee right now, and rightfully so. And I don't think they're going to be happy tomorrow when Mike Matthews announces either. Does the staff turn their eyes to Alex Taylor? Well, if they miss on Matthews, nah, I don't think so. I don't think Taylor's a take, just like Staley was no longer a take. Clemson might very well end up just taking the 2 wide receivers. I've said all along that I think they at least make the effort to get to 3. They're making the effort right now with Matthews, obviously, but I mean, beyond that, I still think at some point it will be discussed, the effort will be made. But I think it's going to be, you've already got 2 outside, bigger body guys on board in the 2024 class. If you take another one, you need a smaller body type, a Brandon Staley type, a Mike Matthews type. And that's not Alex Taylor. He doesn't quite fit that mold. Not saying they'll turn back and try to re-recruit Staley or anything. I don't see that happening under any circumstances. But it would not shock me to see them, identify somebody new and kind of zero in on them. It would not shock me to see it play out that way. Not saying it will. Maybe a guy that has a strong senior season that nobody's talking about right now. But no, I don't think missing on Matthews makes Alex Taylor a take. Again, you've got the 2 bigger body outside guys on board already. I don't think you need another one. The only receiver set to come off the books after this season is Brandon Spector. Now Will Taylor's coming off the books. That's 2 smaller body slot type guys. If you're going to take another one, you need to take a slot type player. How much did wishy-washy answers about O-line worry you? If we're talking about today, I have not listened to every interview yet. They did a bunch of them all at one time. I listened to Thomas Austin. I listened to Tyler Grisham, Mike Reed, and Lamansky Hall. So I'm not sure what you're referring to here. I didn't think Thomas Austin gave a lot of wishy-washy answers, though. I thought he was pretty forthcoming and pretty, frank. I asked him about, what he thought, how he felt about the depth on the offensive line, because we've seen they've not had a lot of quality depth the last couple of years. They kind of relied on 6 or 7 guys, and with the starters playing a ton of snaps. He said he knows it gets said every year that they talk about being more depth every year, but he really feels like they're going to have that this year. And I kind of lean towards believing that there's more talent in that room than Dabo Swinney's ever had. You got 4 guys coming back. You only got to replace 1 starter. I think it is crucial, for them to I'm not saying it's crucial for Tristan Lee to necessarily win that job, but it is crucial to figure out who's going to be your left tackle early on in fall camp and get that thing decided. I think it's going to be Tristan Lee, but let's just say it's not. You might have a competition there with Sadler and Leaf. Also said today that the gap was not that big, that they were two different players. They brought two different types of skill sets. He also says Sadler was going to play early and often. Sounds like Harris Sewell's going to play a lot this year. I wanted to ask him about Ryan Linthicum, never got a chance to, but my biggest concern would be if something happens at center, who's the next guy up? Is Ryan Linthicum ready to slide into that role if they need him to play every day? As far as the offensive line as a whole, I think it's a big year for those guys, man. They need to be better than they have the past couple of years. Again, I think there's more talent in that room right now on paper. If you just go down and look at the talent, that there's more than Dabo Swinney's ever had on his team, in my opinion. Now it's time for that talent to start translating that to production on the field. They've got to be better than they were last year. Got to be better than they were the year before last. And I think they're going to be. I think improved quarterback play is going to help at least a little bit. But I also think having the same four guys or four starters returning is going to help a lot. How's my roommates this week? I got a lot of roommates this week, man. A lot. I'm used to being up here solo. I might have one of my kids with me. My wife might make the trip. Got a lot of roommates this week. A lot of traffic in and out, sounds like. They're not too bad, though. Not too bad. Missing on the O-line affects rest of recruiting. If you consistently miss on the offensive line, yeah, it's going to trickle down and start having an impact on stuff down the line. Fortunately for Clemson, they've got most of this class locked up already. Just all the skills stuff's locked up unless they decide they want to take another wide receiver. They're not taking a quarterback in this class. They got the 2025 guy. They've already got the 2025 running back. Again, I think Clemson recruited fairly well along the offensive line the past 3 classes or so, going back to 2021. It's time for that talent to start translating and showing on the field, but I think they've recruited well. Not so much in this class. For all the success Thomas Austin had in his first recruiting class in 2023, he's not having much at all in 2024, and I think there have been a lot of reasons for that. First and foremost, you're not pumping guys into the league. Thomas Austin is only in his second season at Clemson, only in his 4th season as an offensive line coach. His first 2 were spent at Georgia State. He's got no track record of developing guys and putting guys into the league. It is imperative that Clemson starts putting some of these guys on the roster right now into the NFL. That's going to help you out a lot in recruiting. It's easy to say, it's NIL this, NIL that. And maybe it is here and there. I don't think it is as much as it is being made out to be, though. I think there are other factors in play. And the reason one guy might not want to come to Clemson might not be the reason another guy might not want to come. I think every recruitment plays out a little bit differently. Each is like its own little story, so to speak. I'll use Fletcher Westphal, for example. I remember in a conversation I had with him, he talked about relationships and development and academics, all that kind of stuff. And then after he picks Florida, he talks about what conference he's playing in. That didn't ever come up in the conversation I had with him. It's just you never know what a guy's looking for. I think there is at least one target, one of the 6 guys that were here for the big official visit weekend that NIL played a big part in. maybe not so much with some of the other guys. It didn't factor in at all. I mean, I remember Westfall saying it was pretty far down his list of priorities. Again, I just think you got to start putting guys in the league. You start putting guys in the league, some of these issues are going to take care of themselves. How am I feeling about Corian Gibson? Gibson announces on Saturday, Clemson, Texas. Maybe throw Ohio State in there. I'm not buying any of this Ohio State buzz. I'm not real sure. A lot of the signs are pointing towards Texas right now. I've talked about Gibson before. He's a guy. I've talked about him being a guy I thought might commit when he was here back during the spring game. I thought he was a guy that could potentially shut it down after a big official visit weekend, and he chose not to do that. If you follow him on social media, he's really, really pushing a lot of it's a lot of Texas stuff that gets retweeted out and those kind of things. That could be a smokescreen. You don't know. I don't really know which way this one's going to go just yet. I know there are people in that camp that would prefer him at Clemson. I know there is a lot of outside pressure on him to stay in state, play for Texas. What does Corian Gibson want? We'll find out Saturday, but right now I do not have a good feel on this one way or the other. I really, really don't have any idea. A few weeks ago I said I was still very confident Gibson was going to be a part of this recruiting class. I'm not nearly as confident as I was 2-3 weeks ago. Not saying he's not going to be. I'm just saying I'm not as confident as I was 2 or 3 weeks ago. He's had opportunities to get on board in the past and didn't. So, it kind of feels like maybe, there's got to be a reason for that. We'll see if Clemson's the coaching staff, Mike Reed, and those guys were able to kind of close the deal and push him over the edge and get him there. We'll see. Saturday he announces. Ceiling for this year's team. You know what? We were talking about this today. I think this could be a playoff team, but I'm not convinced they are talented enough to win once they get to the playoff. I'm not sure they've got the players at wide receiver. I'm not sure they've got the depth there. If you can keep Bo Collins and Adam Randall healthy and both those guys play up to their potential, I think this offense could be very dangerous. But I need to see that happen. I've seen Adam Randall play in high school. I know what he's capable of. That guy is going to be a monster. But we need to see Bo Collins stay healthy. He's not been able to do it consistently since he's been at Clemson his first 2 seasons. And there is a lot of unproven depth behind those guys. I'm not convinced that the offensive line is going to take that big of a jump where it springs them from a 10-3 team to a national championship caliber team. I think they're capable of getting to the playoff. I'm just not convinced they are capable of winning once they get to the playoff. I think Clemson has kind of fallen from that upper echelon of teams right down to that tier right below. And there's only a handful of teams in that upper tier. Georgia. Georgia might be in a tier by themselves. And then you got Alabama, Ohio State, those guys, and Clemson's right behind them. I think Clemson's done a lot to address that in the past couple of classes. And I don't think Clemson's going to stay there. I think Cade Klubnik has the potential to be one of the better quarterbacks in the country. Is he that stone cold killer like Deshaun Watson was or Trevor Lawrence was? I think that's something that's still got to be answered. The kid's a winner. There's no doubt about that. I mean, all he did was win in high school. He knows how to win. I think he's got ice water in his veins. But we'll see if he's that stone cold killer type of quarterback where Deshaun Watson at the end of the national title game against Alabama says, "Hey, let's go be great," and they go down the field and win. And Trevor Lawrence, as a freshman, just punking Alabama in the national title game. Is Clay Klubnik that guy? Those are some answers. We'll get answers to those questions this year. Playing time for Zachariah Owens. Wouldn't shock me if Zachariah Owens redshirted this year. He's coming off an ACL injury, suffered as a senior in high school, gained a lot of weight. He's going to need to lose some of that weight, work on his body some in the weight room. So it would not shock me if we saw him take a red shirt. Fortunately, I think Clemson's fortunate enough to be in a position where they're able to redshirt him if needed. Because again, I think Clemson's recruited fairly well along the offensive line. It's just got to translate into results on the field. So now I think you can see one of those guys. You can see him play a little bit in 4 games and take a red shirt this year, because I don't think they are going to need him this year. I think they are in a position where they can let him, spend a year in the working in the weight room, and transforming his body, as Dabo Swinney would put it. High ceiling for that guy, though, man. I think all 3 of the linemen Clemson signed in the last class have a lot of potential. Sewell, Ian Reed, Owens, all 3 of those guys. But it would not shock me to see Owens take a red shirt this year. Will Pride eventually take over one of the cornerback spots? It depends on when you're talking about. I could easily see Toriano Pride as a starting corner on this team, let's say in 2024. I like him. I love Jaden Lucas. He's long and athletic. Pride's long and athletic too, but something different about Jaden Lucas. I think Nate Wiggins is going to be a guy that plays his way up the draft boards this year. I think this is going to be his last season at Clemson. I think he'll leave after his junior season. That's just a feeling I got. I don't know anything. Just a hunch. We kind of saw him grow as a sophomore last year. He improved so much from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. And I think he's going to take a big jump this year. I think he and Sheridan Jones might be your starting corners this year. If I was looking at one guy that could steal one of those spots away, maybe I would look at Lucas before Pride, but it wouldn't shock me if Pride did it either, because I think both of them have that kind of potential. But if I had to wager a guess right now, I'd say Jones and Wiggins are your 2 starters this year. What game worries me the most? Do I feel 12-0 regular season is possible? Is it possible? Yeah, I think 12-0 is possible. I think it's probably unlikely. I never pick anybody. I don't think I've ever picked Clemson to go undefeated in the regular season. It's just too hard. We're talking about 18, 21-year-old kids. There's always going to be a week where they play down to the competition. It feels like not necessarily. If I had to pick one game that intrigues me this year, it's Notre Dame with that new offense and Sam Hartman at quarterback. That's going to be an intriguing game. Fortunately for Clemson, they play in Death Valley. Don't have to go back up to South Bend this year. But if there was one game, I'm going with that one, because I think Florida State's done a lot to improve, but I'm not buying all this Florida State hype just yet. I got to see it before I believe it. I know they won the 5-6 games in a row to end last season, but there wasn't a team that they beat, that was much better than average. They beat up on a lot of good, okay to maybe good team or solid teams, maybe not even good teams. And I love Jordan Travis as a quarterback. They got talent at receiver. They did a lot through the portal to address some holes there, but I'm still not buying that hype for FSU yet, man. So if I got to pick one game, I'm going Notre Dame. My thoughts on the tight end room. I think Jake Brennistool is going to be a matchup nightmare for opposing defenses in this new offense. They talked. I didn't get to hear it, but I was told how they talked how he is kind of. I don't want to be careful how I word this because again, I haven't listened to Kyle Richardson talk yet, but they talked about Brennistool changing his eating habits and doing more to get bigger and stronger and that kind of stuff. And to me, that was the only thing Brennistool was lacking. He's got the size. He's always a little bit been tall and lean. Gets a little bit stronger. He's gonna have a little bit of everything. But that is a guy that you're gonna see split out wide a lot this season in this offense. Being targeted down the field, manipulate some matchups, get him some one-on-ones, and get some guys that can't cover him. For me, the question is how it shakes out behind him. Can Sage Enos hold off Josh Sapp? Because I see Enos more as a blocking type tight end, not the guy that's going to go down the field and catch a bunch of passes. And I think Josh Sapp can kind of give you some of that. I think Josh Sapp gives you a little bit of both. He can be that guy that you need to block. He can also go, stretch the field for you in the passing game. So we'll see if Enos can hold Sapp off. See if Sapp can take that kind of jump between year one and year two. But if you keep Brennistool healthy, that tight end room's solid. I love both those freshmen. They're just raw. Olsen, Pat Henry, Marcus Dixon, they're extremely raw. Both are going to need a year. So I like the room overall as a whole. Who in the room has NFL potential? If you're talking about offensive line, I think there are several in that room that's got NFL potential. Tristan Lee's got NFL potential. Marcus Tate's got NFL potential. I think Colin Sadler's got NFL potential. I think Blake Miller's got NFL potential. Of the three freshmen that just came in, I think Harris Sewell's got NFL potential. We'll see what Zach Owens does. He's got the size you want. An NFL lineman. We'll see what he can do, as far as transforming his body and all that stuff, and how dedicated he is. But the potential is there. I think there are several guys in there that you can see playing on Sundays. They just got to. The coaches need to harness that talent, develop it, and turn some of them into higher round draft picks. I know Clemson's got a handful of guys in the NFL right now. But none of you got the one high round pick in Jackson Carman. But other than that, all these guys have been late round picks and undrafted free agents. You need some guys in the higher rounds, man. Something you can say, hey, look, we've developed this guy. Look, we got this guy, put him in the third round, this guy in the second round. Right now, really, all you can do is point, really, who is it? Jack? I think you got a second round pick and a fourth round pick in the NFL right now, and that's about it. You need more than that. If you let's look at Fletcher Westphal choosing Florida, for example. Their offensive line coach, I can't remember if this is his first year at Florida or he's only been there 1 year. But he's actually coached in the NFL, so he knows what it takes. Although, Austin he had a cup of coffee in the NFL. He knows what it takes to get there too. But if you look at Florida's offensive line coach before he coached in the NFL, he spent several seasons at Group of Five schools. And he was putting guys into the league from Group of Five schools, multiple Group of Five schools. So he's got a track record of putting guys into the league from smaller schools, which means he's putting less talented guys into the league. Thomas Austin just needs to be able to start doing that. It's going to take more than a year or two, but he's going to have to start putting some guys into the league. How much do these kids play games with NIL money, playing teams against each other? Probably a lot, but I can tell you right now, if you do that at Clemson, that's a quick way to get them to move on from you. Clemson's not getting into bidding wars over players. If you come in there trying to start a bidding war, it's not going to work out well. But yeah, there's a lot of it going on. Mike Matthews commits 7 o'clock tomorrow. How many years classes of offensive line misses would cause concern, in your opinion? Let's see what happens before we get to when we get to December and who Clemson ends up with in this class. But let's assume for a minute you get there and you've taken, you got O'Connell, who I think's got a lot of potential. He's got a high ceiling, got that nastiness you like to see in offensive lineman. So you got him and one or two other guys who are big time projects. I think that makes it imperative that you bring in a Hall next cycle. You can't be missing on you can't take a bunch of projects consecutive classes, man. You'll be feeling that in a couple of years, big time. You'll be feeling it on the field, or you'll find yourself going to the portal. It's just, if you're going to miss on offensive linemen, you better hope you kind of needed to stay centered into one class and not stretch out over multiple classes back to back, because it won't take long to start feeling that. So again, if you end up with just kind of O'Connell and a couple of projects in this class, I think that makes it that much more important to land guys in the next class. You're already in on some big name guys, Sanders, Jacobs. There's several guys they've already got offers out to, and you have to close the deal with them. You haven't been able to do that in 2024 for whatever reason. It has kind of gone the opposite way compared to what it did in Austin's first cycle. And you got to close the deal with those guys in 2025. You cannot have back-to-back classes where you're just constantly whiffing on offensive linemen. Nothing against DJ. Is K the better leader? Seems to bring different energy and excitement to the offensive guys. It depends on your definition of better. I would say, yeah, in my opinion, Klubnik's just kind of like a ball of energy, and I think that kind of rubs off on your teammates, whereas DJ was more of that laid back, quiet, lead by example type guy. Not a lot of fire there that I ever saw. Kept thinking I would, but that, kept thinking maybe you'd see that flip switch. Never really did. That's just his personality. You can see it when you listen in his interviews. It's just who he is. He's just a very, very laid back kid. I think Klubnik's kind of the opposite of that. I think maybe not all the time, but a lot of the time, I think, teams kind of take on the identity of their starting quarterback. And if you got a guy as energetic and, as enthusiastic as Klubnik is, it kind of rubs off on the rest of the guys. And I think we'll see that this year. Tyler Grisham had big praise for Ronan Hannafin. Yeah, Hey, I've said all for a year now. I think Hannafin's not gotten enough publicity. He's kind of the guy that doesn't get talked about much out of that 2023 class when it comes to the wide receivers, and he's the highest rated receiver they got in that class. He's a big body guy. He is faster than people think. He can move. I think he's going to be really good. It's just a matter of if it's going to be this year or not. He's not an early enrollee, so we'll see if he can have, a fall camp similar to what Antonio Williams did last year and crack that too deep and get out there on the field. But I think he can be a contributor on this offense this year if, he can soak it all up in a quick amount of time in fall camp. He's that talented. Just a guy that doesn't get talked about much, I guess, because he's up from the Northeast, just doesn't get a lot of publicity. Eason said Woods was up to 310 pounds, up 40 since he started. I saw Peter Woods today. I'm telling you, man, I would not worry about the shape he's in. I would not worry about that one bit, man. I would think you'd want him right around the 310 range. Not a whole lot bigger than that because he's not a big, tall guy. Saw him and TJ Parker coming in the building today, and they look fantastic. Just do not look like typical freshmen at all. Who is running back 3? Dominique Thomas is running back 3, I think. Has been was last year. I don't see that changing this year. I think it'll be Shipley, Moffitt, Thomas, Adams, and probably, if you can, redshirt those 2 freshmen. Yes, sir. Everybody listen to James. Hit that like button. We very much appreciate it. How much of a factor would Cole Turner be? I think Cole Turner brings a lot to the table, and he can help you in a lot of ways. We talked about it at the top, how Clemson's kind of lacked explosiveness the past couple years. Turner can run. He's got some speed. He can stretch the field for you, and he can help you, get back to being that explosive offense that we were used to seeing a few years back. I think I see Turner playing a complementary type role this year. I don't think he's going to be a starter, but I think he's going to be a guy that rotates in and out, and he's going to help you. He's going to make plays for you. I still kind of new to football. I want to say he didn't really start playing football till his junior year in high school, and he didn't play in a spread offense till his senior season in high school. I want to say that's what his high school coach told me when I talked to him back when he committed. But so he's kind of just scratching the surface, really. But I think he's going to be a contributor, a guy that rotates in and helps this offense. How good do I think this offense will be? I think this offense is going to be night and day better than what it's been the past couple of years. And I know that's not saying a lot. The offense was bad in 2021, and it was better last year, but it wasn't a ton better. The numbers suggested that it was a lot better than it was in 2021, but it didn't really pass the eyeball test. There were a lot of games where this offense just kind of went in a hole and died, had long lulls of a bunch of 3 and outs, and just couldn't get anything going. And I think there's a lot of things that factored into that. But I think you're going to see this offense rebound this year, and there's going to be some, the explosiveness is going to return. It might take a couple, 2-3 weeks. It seems to always do when you're installing a new system. I think back to Chad Morris and his first game. And golly, who was Clemson playing that week? Was it Troy maybe? I can't recall for sure, but it was some smaller school, and the offense was not very good in the first half, and fans were booing, as they went off the field at halftime. Sometimes it takes a couple, 3 weeks, and remember all the guys they had out in the spring who have really still not done a whole lot with this offense as far as repping goes. It's going to be a lot to do in a short amount of time in fall camp. But I think this is going to be a high-powered offense, man. I think it's going to be a high-scoring offense. I think it's going to be much improved over last year. And a lot of that's going to be due to Garrett Riley, but a lot of it's going to be due to just having better quarterback play. Any word on how XT is doing health-wise? Lemansky Hall said he was ready to roll today, that he was as good as he's been since he's been at Clemson, mentally, physically, all the way around. Just got to cross your fingers and hope he can stay that way. He's had some tough breaks during his career. If there's one kid that deserves to have a big season, man, it's him. He has put in the work for sure. On a scale of 1 to 10, how annoying would you rank Tennessee fans? I had no idea they suck so much because they've been irrelevant so long. I don't spend a lot of time on message boards, very little, so I don't have a whole lot of experience dealing with them online. I have gotten a little taste, seen a little bit of it on Twitter, since Clemson's been having some head-to-head battles with them. And the online volunteer fans seem a little insufferable to me. Let's put it that way. On the other hand, when they came here for the Clemson Regional in baseball, I went out to the Tennessee-Charlotte game the first night. I think it was Tennessee-Charlotte the first night because I wanted to watch Tennessee in person and get a good feel for how they played and stuff. And spent a lot of time talking to a lot of their fans, trying to get familiar with more of their players and their coaching and that kind of stuff. And didn't run across a bad one, man. They were all just as friendly as they could be. None of them had any idea. They didn't know I was in the media or anything. They just thought I was another Clemson fan. So I've seen both sides of it. But I have seen the insufferable types, on Twitter. But I think you get that. I think there's some of that with every fan base. All right, man. Appreciate y'all tuning in. Hey, do not forget, man, we got a lot of things going on. We got a lot of things going on this week. We're going to have a lot more stuff from the media days, from the media day today. Again, we got every assistant coach. We've already put a little bit of stuff out on that. Big show tomorrow, live show, Wednesday, Dockside, right out there in front of your pie. Myself, Brad Sink of Zach Lentz, Will Vandervoort, we're going to be all four of us out there broadcasting live. We're going to have some free swag to give away. Come on out and join us. Love to see as many of you out there as possible. This our second big live show. We're going to do another one in August, and we got some bigger plans coming after that. Don't forget, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and Help us keep bringing you more of this content. And we will see y'all again next Monday. Appreciate y'all tuning in.